The Civil War, also known as the War Between States, was fought between the Confederate States of America and the United States of America. The Confederate States of America were a group of 11 southern states who were determined to protect the institution of slavery. As we now know, many African Americans were enslaved, tortured, and all their rights and freedoms were stolen from them. In addition, the war itself affected all Americans, and this inspired artists to depict their perspectives of the war. Two artists who created artwork symbolizing the war were Winslow Homer, who illustrated life directly after the war, and Barkley Hendricks, who created art symbolizing the continuous aftermath, as his art is not revealed till the later 1900s. Hendricks also was determined to build a new perspective on the world's views on African Americans. First, Winslow Homer. Homer is famous for many artworks, however, one that really stood out was the brush harrow. This piece shows two boys. One of them is sitting on a U.S. horse pulling a harrow across a barren field. Essentially, a harrow was an agricultural instrument which flattens out fields and softens the ground. The two boys are extremely significant because they are not men, they are not fighting, they are not at war, but they are at peace. This illustrates the beginning of life after the war. Made in 1865, this painting was created directly after the war. Homer was in fact alive during this period, making his work extremely relevant as he used his own experiences and perspectives to paint it onto a canvas. Furthermore, Homer paints the horse very scrawny to indicate the dramatic effect of the exhausting battle. By the use of oil painting, Homer is able to flawlessly depict the peaceful life. Homer uses warm colors and blends them out completely to emphasize a softer look, which ties into the peaceful aspect. He uses browns, greens, and blues. These colors do not appeal for a dramatic look, but a more natural and stable look. Additionally, the young boys are plowing the ground to symbolize the restarting of life. For example, Lincoln's second inaugural states how he wishes the Americans set aside malice and bind up the nation's wounds. This is seen as the boys are setting up for a new start and working for a new beginning. Moving on to Barkley Hendricks, his art was very different from Homer's. Hendricks was not in fact alive during the war, however, he as an African American man living in the 1900s had a lot of perspective. He was educated on the Civil War from his grandparents and understood the huge effect it had on all Americans, especially blacks. Furthermore, after the Civil War, African Americans were still not treated equal, not even close. Segregation was a huge deal and it impacted all lives. There was still a negative connotation on African Americans, and after all our history, we still see those racist remarks happening today. However, Hendricks wanted to bring light to this situation. He channeled his artistic abilities to spread love and show a different perspective for his people. Some of his works, such as Northern Lights, Toast, and Lottie Mama, are iconic for their uniqueness. In each of these artworks, Hendricks does not show Africans as slaves, weak, or anything less than amazing. He shows them for what they really are: beautiful, creative, strong, and cool. He actually titled these works as Black Cool, and truly kicked out all the stereotypes and negative comments. When analyzing Toast, we see an intellectual with style. He is named Toast because of the shade of his skin, and Hendricks successfully shades his skin color very dark. His hair is perfectly slick, and the red turtleneck and blue sweater he is wearing indicates that nerd stereotype. He is painted to be looking down and reading a book. Hendricks' purpose was not to show political drama, but to show personal joy and enlightenment. He wanted to reform what a black body looks like on a canvas, and this played a huge role in his involvement with the Art of Black's aesthetic movement. In addition, another famous piece was Northern Lights. We see the same man posing 3 different ways. He has a big smile and is dressed up. The fur coat symbolizes wealth, and his long green coat adds to that money look as well. Diving into the style of art Hendricks used, he basically used oil canvases for all his artwork and made sure his art was simple yet meaningful. The colors of Northern Lights and Toast are very defined and bold, a dash of red, dark blue, and green. It is obvious Hendricks used color. However, he did not softly paint the people's looks. They are bold and all seem to have a strong physical appearance. This was huge, as Americans never viewed African Americans as this. His art was revolutionary for the Black art movement, and he enabled discussions and debates throughout different people. Lastly, the color of people's skins was very relevant to his art. It was known if you had lighter skin, you were more fair and socially accepted. However, Hendrix portrayed the complete opposite. In his art, his people are darkly shaded, but still were represented as beautiful, and he truly made his artwork cool.